Perfect. Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kathy Hartman with Early Learning Indiana. Thank you so much for joining us today for another session in our Ask the Expert series. Our Ask the Expert series brings local and national experts to speak with exchange members about topics that impact children, families, educators, and communities across Indiana and beyond. Today, I'm especially honored to welcome Dr. Doug Clements, whose work has helped shape the national conversation around early mathematics education and the importance of building strong math foundations in young children. Dr. Clements is widely regarded as one of the leading scholars in early childhood mathematics education, with influence spanning research, classroom practice, and education policy. His work has helped shape new mathematics curricula, innovative teaching approaches, teacher training initiatives, and large-scale educational interventions focused on improving mathematical literacy and access for young learners. We are incredibly fortunate to have him with us today to share his insights on early mathematics education and why it matters so deeply for children, families, and communities, and why he believes, quote, math is beautiful. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Doug Clements.
Thank you, Kathy. That was generous to a fault. Appreciate it. Hey,
You're
people, love to make this interactive, even though it's a webinar, as much as we can. So the chat is open, hopefully, to all of you, or Q&A. I can't remember if, Kathy, if you told me which one they should use. But questions anytime, and if I don't see them, my colleagues here will run me down and stop me, and I'd like to address them when you have the questions. So let's get started. The title is Early Math, Surprisingly Important. I want to credit my wife and colleague Julie Sarama with, the real thinking of most of these ideas. Probably if you're on the webinar, I don't need to convince you that we need better math, but maybe. But I'm always convinced, for instance, here's a sign above a store in Buffalo, New York, where I was born and raised. Buy 3 for the price of 3. Really? Really? That's going to bring people into the store? And, maybe if that doesn't work, people love a sale, but this sale's a little suspicious here. Get 50% off or half price, whichever is less. So I guess they want people to get out their calculators and try to compute both of those. And hey, we don't do much with statistics in early childhood education, but statistics is in trouble if they show that teen pregnancy drops off significantly after age 25. I could see why that would happen. So what's surprising about early mathematics? There's a couple things, but I'm going to stress 3. First of all, early math is surprisingly predictive. Okay? So in this study, it's hundreds of tens of thousands of kids in each one of these studies and dots. So every one is a different study. And what they found out is grades here, later grades in elementary school, are predicted better by early math than any other thing. Early literacy skills predicted fine. The social emotional things, not so much, not because they're not important, but early childhood teachers tend to do a great job with those, so they're not barriers to kids. But that's really strong prediction. In fact, early math skills predict later reading success as well as these early literacy skills do. Kind of shocking. So it's not just about numbers and shapes, for sure. It's about a way of thinking, and we'll get to that again. So early math predicts high school graduation and college. It's got a greater influence on good transition from kindergarten to first grade than early reading or writing does. Again, we need early reading and writing. It's not a competition. It's just that sometimes, and I think some of your states, right, don't really put the emphasis on early math. They do on early literacy. But these kind of results and predictions seem to imply, ooh, we're not doing the best for kids if we don't build both and more, right? Because why math again? Because it develops critical thinking, executive function, social emotional competencies, language abilities, even creativity. And over a lifetime, these positive effects of early math compound, and we all really benefit from investing in early math. Now, I'm saying all these big claims. You're a researcher. Doug, are you skeptical? Yes, I am. When people make these claims that it's so important and everything, I really want to know what the research says. And it really bears those things out. I wouldn't have told them to you if it didn't. So, thinking skills? Absolutely. Look, this study showed that students who specifically math education showed reduced brain levels involved in reasoning and cognitive learning. It really is a core cognitive ability. Executive function, you might call it self regulation, that kind of thing. Yes, this is a little complicated, but I'm going to go really quick. We found it's more highly related to math than anything else, science or literacy, language. If you do executive function in your math lesson, if you attend to executive function and do high quality math, you get two for the price of one. That's more effective than a lot of these programs that are targeting executive function themselves. It predicts more than general language does the growth in executive function. And listen, there's lots I'll show you a website later where you can see these articles if you want it. These are teacher friendly articles on how you teach both math and executive function. If your math education was anything like mine, be quiet, sit down, do a worksheet. You might say math helps social emotional development. No way. No way. You know, it was the hardest thing to sit there and just grind through worksheets. Yeah, that's not high quality math for preschool and the whole early childhood range. It really does help. For instance, we know that the collaborative thinking and turn taking you do in games helps. Also, sharing. Goodness sakes, these researchers published in Child Development just taught kids counting, and it promoted fair sharing for kids, not just when things were countable, but throughout the school day. It probably gives them a concrete kind of thing to think about what's fair. And also, math predicts later social emotional, high quality math that you experience predicts later social emotional skills more than the reverse. So we know everything helps everything else when it's done well, but math is particularly important, and we ignore it to the children's peril. How about early language? Yeah, we did this big study, 3 cities in 3 different states. And the teachers there were happy with the math, but not sure what it'd do to their language and literacy skills. Well, we had no effect, positive or negative, by introducing math into their classrooms on letter naming and phonemic awareness and like. We also gave them a language expressive measure. It's called the bus story, and you show these cartoons like these 3 panels, and you tell a little story about a naughty bus doesn't want to take the kids to school, learns its lesson, comes back. Then you hand the pictures to the kids and said, now you tell it. What we found is no difference on 3 measures from that assessment, but significantly higher for the learning trajectories. I'll get to that. That's what the LT is. Math on the number of vocabulary words, not math words, vocabulary words from the story that they used when they retold the story. The grammatical complexity. High quality math, we're always asking kids, how do you know? What do you think about this other child's solution? That really builds their language skills so much that when you express how do you know, you're kind of metalinguistic, metacognitive, and you build this grammatical complexity. They were more independent, finishing the whole story without help, and they were better at answering inferential questions. So we know that it really does support language. How about creativity? A lot of people, again, who experience math like I did in the early years might say, you must be joking. Creativity. You know, there's one way to do the problem. I have to figure out what that is. I got to carry the one, whatever, right? Yep, it actually is true. Okay? Here's two studies. First, they did tangram puzzles. And these two studies, incidentally, were the reason I picked what I'm going to do at the end of the presentation. Stay tuned for that. But tangram puzzles, first graders, increased creativity. Puzzle games, very similar. Kindergarten students on the creative thinking skills. People, not just the Torrance test of creative thinking visual, because you'd think, okay, maybe putting the shapes together to solve problems helps that, but verbal as well. So, learning geometry in students, a relationship between mathematical and mathematical creativity, third study, all dependent on high quality math. And that's a big deal, right? Again, worksheets is not what we're talking about. We're talking about asset-based, grounded in children's learning and thinking, where kids are active, engaged, inventive, when it's culturally responsible and responsive and anti-biased. So what we want is what my friends at NAEYC often call challenging but achievable content. Okay, that's surprise number one. Surprising importance of early math for the realization of kids' potential and for everything going forward into adulthood. The surprise number two is they have big potential, if given high quality experiences, to learn amazingly broad and complex, sophisticated mathematics. That doesn't mean it looks like second grade or third or fourth grade passed down or worksheets. It means if you let them think the way that's natural for young kids to think. Let me give you an example. These kids worked with Julie and my learning trajectories approach, which I'm going to get to for the year, and then pulled this puzzle off the shelf. And it was not part of our work with them. It was a separate puzzle. And Corey started putting 4 triangles together to make squares. Let me picture that for you, in case it's too small. So he's putting 4 triangles together to make a square, plops it in the puzzle form there. Keeps doing it. The other kids come along and say, "Can I help?" But when they put these triangular blocks together, this child put only 2 together. They had a big discussion, talked about how you have to do it, talk about that it's got to be bigger than that to fit correctly, and they finish. Corey shows the adult, the teacher in the classroom, who was watching them and taking the photos, and she asks, "How many triangles did you use?" 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 24. Good counting for a 4-year-old. But she doesn't stop. 24 what? Triangles. How many squares do you have? Because she saw how they were doing it. And this is what Julie and I love particularly, is that Corey curls up his little finger, puts 4 fingers down to put on the 4 triangles of each square and counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's happening here? In the 2 most important domains for early childhood mathematics, number and spatial thinking and geometry, Corey is making a unit of units. So stay with me here for just a minute. If he can see 4, a group of 4 as one thing and count it as one thing, that lays a groundwork for thinking of tens as units, for thinking of addition and subtraction as parts and wholes. And in geometry, if he can see the triangles as separate things and then unitize them and see them as a square, we will see at the end of the presentation how important that is. Because all these examples, when I was preparing this presentation, I usually do number learning trajectories in an example. Not today, I'm going to do geometry, because I saw all these kind of things about the importance of geometry. And if math is sometimes neglected a little bit, geometry is even more so. Okay, so let's go. What's the third surprise then? We know a lot about how children think and learn, and teaching with learning trajectories for challenging but achievable math. And what do I mean? Most of these research documents, IES practice guides and the like, promote learning trajectories as the core way to approach early math. And what is a learning trajectory? This picture's just a little tool I'm going to show you later so you can have a resource, free resource. A learning trajectory approach is the asset-based approach I mentioned before, builds on what children know and can do, using activities tailored to develop the next level of thinking. So not just like there's curricula, popular preschool curricula, unfortunately, who there's like units and you can pick any unit you want to and each one has some math in it. It doesn't make any sense. That doesn't follow children's development. A curriculum should be building on what we know about kids' development, which is the point of learning trajectories. So the asset-based approach thing, so I don't leave that aside too much, is different from what often happens with curricula, more elementary math curricula, where they take the mathematics and they break it down into little pieces and teach one piece at a time. The learning trajectories approach builds up the mathematics from what kids can do. So a learning trajectory then is a tool. A research-based guide gives you a lens to observe kids along a natural learning path for a given topic and linked engaging activities that are playful and help them construct the next level of thinking. So that's then the big picture. The learning trajectories have three parts then. There's a mathematical goal we want the kids to reach, not a narrow behavioral objective, but a broad level of thinking about a topic that includes ideas and processes and skills and the like altogether. There's a developmental progression of levels of thinking through which they pass. I'm going to give you an example pretty soon that we know from research is a natural path for kids. And there are teaching practices linked to each level. So again, we don't do a generic cute activity and just pick one out of the air. We really think about what do kids need to develop that next level of thinking, and then we find activities that'll develop those kind of mental actions on objects that they have to build to achieve that next level. So the example will be, like I said, and the goal is to learn to compose geometric shapes. Okay? So I'm going to show you a brief learning trajectory for that. And let's see. The goal we saw, the developmental progression goes like this. And incidentally, I'm pulling these videos from our Learning and Teaching with Learning Trajectories web tool. So this is a free resource. Anything I say or that can be found here. Here's composing 3D shapes. There's all these levels. It goes much farther off the screen down the bottom, but I wanted to show you that. So I'm going to turn down the volume just a little bit. It won't turn down. That's okay. Sorry. So I'll just talk over. You can ignore what's on the video, sorry. But, so, see, she did that puzzle in the lower right. Now she's got a similar puzzle. I don't know if you can see it clearly enough, but she puts a trapezoid there where a rhombus or diamond would fit. Okay? So then she continues. She seems to match one on one, but not the shape, right? She's not choosing the right shape. Here she goes, she puts a square on a triangular foot of this little doggy puzzle. And she has to be encouraged to keep going, which was not true of our our kids who experience the learning trajectories approach. Okay, so that's where she ends. And you almost want to say, she doesn't get it. And that's a real problem in math ed, by the way. The teachers think about kids too often as these kids get it, these kids don't get it. No. This kid has strengths. Every kid has strengths we can build on. So that kind of dichotomous get it, don't get it should yield to a what do they know and what do they do, and I know exactly how to build them up from there. So she knows the shapes are supposed to match the shape. She's not matching them yet. She knows it's one-to-one correspondence kind of thing between them. But did you notice something else? She also recognized the symmetry of the figure. 2 ears, I'm going to use the same shape. 2 feet, same shape. Ooh, that's actually a deeper idea than just the matching of the shapes. She's got stuff we can build on. And I'll show you how in a minute, but let's do the developmental levels yet. First, this this goes real fast, this video. Oh, can you nod, Kathy? Are you hearing the video? But
Yes.
still hear me? Okay, great.
Yes.
This is actually what she's working on this time, right? And so she's going to try to put a square in where you and I can see only a blue rhombus or two green triangles are going to fit. Watch
Hey,
her.
Doug.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you were meaning that the video was currently going, but
Oh,
you're
no, 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 no. It
got it.
goes so
Okay,
fast. Here we
got it.
go. Oh,
Okay, great.
get your seatbelt on. Here we go. So she tries to put that square in, and that knocks the other two shapes out of the arm. So then she fixes those two shapes. She holds them down and tries to force the square in. It doesn't work. So, okay, she gives up on that shape. Hey, lucky for her, a rhombus is right there next to her hand. She grabs that. All good. So that's the whole video there. She finishes the puzzle, but early childhood teachers are usually excellent at watching kids' processes. And if you watch her finish the whole puzzle, it's all trial and error. It's good. She's matching. She knows the task more than the child at the earlier level. I should have said this level is actually 2 levels above that first little girl. Okay? Now, let's hop up 2 more levels because I want to show you what's our goal for like end of pre-K and if not end of kindergarten. This girl, wow! Watch the differences between her and the first two. Ready? So first of all, she uses a symmetry very explicitly. Picks one, flips it, she's on the other side. Secondly, notice that she takes time to always pick the right shape. So she stares at the puzzle, she stares at the shape, and every time she finds a shape, it fits. She can anticipate what she needs. But then, watch this. This just blows me away. Watch what she does. After she picks that shape. Let me see if I can show you that again. She is going to find the shape she needs, but watch her eyes. The second she touches the shape, her eyes go back to the puzzle. She does not look at the shape again, and yet, when she puts it down, you ready? Watch her eyes, then her hand, real quick. When she puts it down, it's exactly at the right orientation and place. People, she has built the ability to build, maintain, and manipulate a shape mentally so that she grabs a shape, looks at the puzzle, and her hand turns it without her looking at her hand or the shape into exactly the right position. These are powerful geometric and spatial kind of things. Think of this when you think of not only later mathematics and geometry, but part whole thinking of fractions and breaking things up into equal parts and that kind of thing, and even the arts. You know, it's just amazing what kids can do when given the right experiences. What are the right experiences? What do we do for teaching practices? So, I taught kindergarten and preschool. When I taught kindergarten, they gave me those same blocks. I'm sure you know them, called pattern blocks, right? And they gave me a kit of them, and they came with all these puzzles. Now, think about this. Every single puzzle, I just showed you a couple, and okay, I think it's hilarious that this is the teacher page. All these puzzles were full 8.5 by 11. You're seeing them reduced because this is the teacher manual, obviously, because they thought, the publishers thought, that I wouldn't be able to figure out what pattern blocks to put on what shape if they didn't give me a picture. Come on, guys. I could do that myself. The more important thing here is not that they really didn't respect anything I could do. But think about this. All the puzzles looked exactly like this. Who would that serve? Of those 3 girls we saw, who would these puzzles be good for? And I would say They're a little difficult for, but appropriate to the very first girl. What would the second and the third girl do with a puzzle like this with all the internal lines? They'd solve them. Well, they really wouldn't solve them. Anybody just matches to the shape. You're not composing shapes when you do this. You're shape matching. They're past shape matching, right? So what do we do? Well, I wanted to mention, again, back to the free resource, learningtrajectories.org. I just wanted to show you that if you click on one of those levels I showed you before, you can see the videos like the ones I showed you. You can read about it. And then way down here, if you scroll down, or just click on activities, either way, you see a whole lot of activities that'll help kids who are ready to be shape composers to achieve that level. So there's research notes, there's ghost shapes, there's pattern block puzzles. Each of them, once you click on them, darn, I should have put another slide in because these are just from the website. This isn't the website, obviously, but Pattern Block Puzzles has a really good video, and then once you open up an activity, you can see a PDF. You can download the puzzles, all the stuff, all the resources you need for the activity are there. So what we would do is we might get kids together and give them different puzzles, right? But the important thing, I'm not going to show that much. The important thing is the teacher who knows the kids or just watches them as they work can pick puzzles that are going to be right for kids. And we always give kids choices. So do you remember that I was laughing at the publisher who thought I couldn't do those puzzles? That would be appropriate for this first girl, to teach her how to match them. Actually, we do a puzzle first where they weren't even touching full sides with her to make sure she really got the matching, and then move to these. So that would be great. And if you have a kid at a table doing puzzles and they're at this level, we always have like 6 or 8 puzzles at that level. So the kid can choose, but you can help guide the level of thinking. How about that second girl? This might be appropriate for her. Once you put this triangle in the beak of, I guess, this bird, then putting the hexagon seems pretty easy, but still you're composing at this point, right? And then that third girl, we really want to challenge her with having to look at the angles here, having complex things, big areas that she has to fill in and the like. So these are games that are on the computer. I wanted to show you this just because that first girl would first get ones like this. Do you see how they only touch at the vertices? You're really not composing yet shapes to make new shapes. You're really just matching shapes, but that's good. Get her going on that. Then give her something like this with the internal lines drawn in, and eventually get to the second girl who would benefit from something like this. Some easy shapes here, little composing up here. And then once again, that third girl would get one with more difficult angles and everything. So let me see the time. I'm running out. Geometry is the second most important area of math learning, and arguably as important as number, because it supports number and arithmetic. And you might say, I'm not sure I believe you. I want to be skeptical now. No, people. In a study, kids did these. First this, there was this, first this, first this. They didn't see them all at once. I'm just showing you that what they had to do was see 2 shapes. Easy, harder, harder, hardest. And then pick the one that's going to make once you put them together. Okay? And then, I'm just saying, once they work through those, they substantially improved in arithmetic. There's no number here. But the cognitive ability to take 2 parts and put them together helped them learn arithmetic and subtraction, especially missing add-in types. 3 plus what number equals 8, right? You got to think, what's the part? What's the whole? How do I find that missing part? Geometry helped them. Here's another article in cognitive development that mental rotation was critical for solving this kind of missing term problems. That's why I showed you this little picture here, because you have to mentally rotate which way to go. off and on computer to put that in. And then transformation skills, in other words, putting two shapes together to make another shape, right? Like we saw here. And here's another example, putting pattern blocks together to make a whole, really helps kids build arithmetic. And then remember, they also develop creativity. So, early math has surprising predictive power. Young children have the potential to learn powerful math, and we know a lot about learning and teaching with learning trajectories. But I want to end, and I'm not going to get to what I also wanted to share, but I knew that, and I'll have the slides ready in case there's a little lull in the questions and all. If you're still skeptical, I don't know. Literacy and language are so important. I'm not sure. And especially, I don't know all the shape stuff. I guess you have those studies, but really, is it appropriate to do all this kind of challenging but achievable mathematics with young kids? Well, I want to take you back quite a long time to Frederick Froebel. Many of you may know he invented kindergarten, right? Preschool math is not recent. There's a historical kind of thing of mathematics in Froebel's work and Montessori's work and everything else. So where's the geometry? Well, they gardened, but look at the layout of the garden. Geometric. Froebel, you might know, had famous gifts and occupations. People, they're all geometry. They're all putting shapes together to make other shapes, right? They would build these with cubes and triangular prisms, half cubes kind of thing. They would also be given squares and right isosceles triangles that fit, to make a square like that. And given these kind of patterns, they would have to reconstruct them. Their tables, incidentally, were laid out in these grids. You probably can't even see the teeny little squares that are on there, that are on the things, but the tables were gridded so that they could produce these things. Okay, and then, did it help kids? Let me give you a few examples. One of these pictures is by the famous artist Pierre Mondrian, and another one was made by a kindergartner in 1890 in a Froebelian kindergarten. Which one do you think? Okay, let's take a look. Mondrian on the left, kindergartner on the right. How did the kindergartner make those, by the way? Strips of paper that they weaved in and out of things, okay? Let's try another one. Which is Gladys, who's 4 years of age, and which is Paul Klee, famous artist, and which is Irma? Well, again, you might be able to guess that one, but it's pretty cool because, and here I should have said this with Mondrian too, Mondrian himself spent a year in a Froebelian kindergarten. Paul Klee started his education in a Froebelian kindergarten. Those two artists did things like this and then amazed the world with things like this. Okay? Last one, this is pretty easy. You could probably guess the Mondrian is over here, but I think it's fun that, how did they do this? Little pinholes in the paper, and they were weaving black yarn in and out. Okay? Mondrian spent a year in a Froebelian kindergarten, and perhaps my favorite one, Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay? This is a kindergarten, 1880. This is called the 18th gift. They're these shapes. You put them together to duplicate kind of things, or play freely with them, of course, too. And here is Wright's price tower that he made in 1952. Kind of amazing, right? Okay, how about this? Here's the 16th gift. Obviously with building blocks there. And here's the Robbie house that Frank Lloyd Wright designed in 1906. People, solving problems with intentional teaching is really important for kids. In his memoirs, Frank Lloyd Wright claimed kindergarten was the only definite influence on being an architect. He spent 2.5 years in a Froebelian kindergarten. He says the smooth, shapely maple blocks with which to build, the sense of which never after leaves the fingers, so form became feeling. The stones in my hand and under my eyes turned to living, speaking forms. So people learning trajectories work. They're effective. Geometry and high quality mathematics helps everybody. So I wanted to tell you about some recent projects we're doing, but let's take all the questions first, and not. I won't even do this if there's no time at the end. So let me see. So I blasted you with my hyperspeed webinar, so much so that you probably didn't get a chance to put your questions in the chat. But if you have any, please do.
Well, and Doug, as people are processing and thinking through that, I just want to first extend my gratitude from all of us for that insightful presentation. I can already tell you that the space that I'm in right now, I'm seeing angles and geometry in very new and different ways. So, and I can imagine my colleagues and I going around our office and even saying to each other, "Oh, look at that angle! Look at the geometry." So, thank you for that. I do want to encourage our group. I have some questions, but I do want to encourage our group to put them in the chat. Doug also mentioned even at the beginning that it's okay to unmute yourself and just build a community and put your questions out there into the group. Um, Doug, I'm not sure if you're seeing that the chat, but
I am, and I do, and I was wondering if I can get this going fast enough so I'm not taking up your time. There we go.
well, and Doug, I'm
Um,
appreciating that this person wants you to be their math
I
teacher.
know, I thought that was so cute. Thank you, guys.
I think we all want to go back and have math experiences all.
I I so wish so many people could start over again with math. And that's what we do in our professional development, by the way. We play with these math ideas because it's so important to see you know this stuff. You can do this stuff because so many people got a bad identity about mathematics. That's another important thing, kind of kids' identity in mathematics. So I'm going to just sign up. This is the Learning and Teaching with Learning website. I'm not going to spend a long time here. I would like to say that again, here's composing 2D shapes, here's shape composer we saw, here's what we saw. You can see two different videos of kids at that level so you understand. And then I did not get a chance to show you that this is what you see when you see an activity at this level. So here you see a nice video of it in action. You see activities here, and you can see things on what you have to have pattern blocks for this one. And then that's materials, but also you can see the PDF. So English PDF is right here. I don't know if that's going to show. Yeah, it shows fine. Okay, so you can print that or see it if you like the PDF form. It's the same as this write-up, but it's just like nice. It's got all the kind of things. But anyway, what was I going to say? What does the research mean for families? Yes, thank you. Number one, the new project that I may or may not have time to tell you about is specifically to build out this website more for families and the like in our work. But for now, you have to see the resources. So we have videos for families here. So the resources tab right here. Then family, and then a lot of resources for families for different ages. So this can just help them. Oh, it has printouts, it has ideas, it has how do you do it, how do you do these kind of math things in informal ways and throughout your day and everything. Math at home, math talk, math in everyday routines, but also they can do many of the activities. What we want to do with the new project is make it just for them so that because when they go to the activities and they see this is whole group, these are centers, because this was born as a research professional development tool for Julie and my research, so it's pretty school centric. But we are building that out, and we want to do more Tell me if that didn't answer your question. Um, uh, Not a question, but I really enjoyed. Thank you. Had a math training as a Kathy. Oh, cool. What 1 year old classrooms as much as I can. Excellent. Oh, that's so excellent. Listen, I'm gonna do something else then. I'm gonna show you that we serve all ages, birth, I swear to God, right up to about 8 years of age. So if I can bore you, subitizing is a quick recognition of number that I almost always use in a webinar like this, but I just got caught up with this. I want to do geometry in this one. But subitizing, if you don't mind, check this out. Uh, this is this ability, this number sense, starts when kids are born.
Watch
So
this
let me
6 month
see.
old. They give him a central figure and then they show him.
I don't know if you can see it well enough, Kathy. If you can't, I can, I'll try to do this. Is that good?
We
Okay.
can see it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Two different sets.
I'm
On the
sorry,
right,
I'm
the
narrating.
sets are always 10, although they change in arrangement and size and everything. But look at the ones on the left. They're changing from 10 to 20. Where does this 6 month old infant in Liz Brannon and Melissa Libertus's laboratory look? To our left. In other words, this infant can not only detect change in a number of sets, that in many of these approximate number systems or ANS experiments, this infant is delighted that one set is changing constantly and looks at that one, finds that one fascinating. What an important foundation for all future numerical
Now
knowledge.
watch the
Look at the
infant's eyes.
excitement in
Watch. He's going to
noticing
check the other
that
side
one of
out
those sets and only one of those sets
and
is
decides
changing
that's
in
boring.
number.
Goes back to the one that's changing. So I'm just saying to Amber, was it? There, every single one of the learning trajectories starts at birth and tells you, in the first few months, but certainly 1 year olds and things like that, then has resources, um, um, uh, activities and stuff like that for kids who are very, very young, appropriate to that. Much more everyday things, much more things like for the very young, of course. We notice when they're playing, so how do you build on that? Those kind of things. Anything more? Oh, a
Yes,
new one too.
there's a couple new ones, Doug.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, so Natalie asked the question, what can we do to encourage adults who feel like they are bad at math I almost feel terrible saying that out loud, to encourage positive feelings and experiences for young children's with math, not just teachers, but parents, community members, etc.
Yeah, we actually tend to, uh, when we're working with wide, uh, we go to the website and we actually show some of these videos of young kids, and then we often, almost always, get some math materials out, everyday materials as well as specific math materials like pattern blocks, and play games with them right away and talk about how did you do that? What did you know? What's your strategy for that? And oh, I noticed that this person, did you see you really use symmetry in an interesting way. That one's called rotational symmetry. This one's called mirror symmetry, and all these kind of stuffs come out of them playing around with manipulative things, playing simple games and things like that. And then we help them navigate this again, made for PD, not made for an individual parent to use, but we're getting there. We're trying to get there. Because every person has abilities like this, just like the kids for sure. And we just want to give you experiences, families, parents, whomever, other caregivers, um, uh, that you know this stuff. You think this, you use this every day. The kind of patterning, a number, quantitative sense. What turns people off is when it's presented like I did at one point, 5 plus blank, equals 8. That's when people say, "Hey, here's a research fact. I hope you think is interesting or at least a little funny. All you have to do to get 47% of the population to freeze up and be nervous about math is show the numeral 47. That's it. You just show them that numeral. Some people's brains say, "Oh my God, math." So we kind of don't do the symbols. We talk and do math in fun, interesting, creative ways, and then talk about how they really do know this stuff. And it's like bad education. I'm sorry, guys, because we're supposed to be in charge of that. Very often took you down a path where you thought you weren't good at it.
Thanks, Doug.
Now, there's
LaDonna,
another one. Yeah.
yeah, LaDonna is asking a really interesting question that I think leans into what you were talking about of following the child as well as just differentiating for the children who are before us. And so when with 3 to 5 year olds, when introducing math, if there is a child or a few of them that may seem to struggle, how can we go about helping them gain more traction as each child learns in different ways and requires a different amount of attention?
Yeah. Excellent question. And really, really one of the chief things about, I hope I communicated this well. Um, Whether you call it differentiation, individualization, and I don't like that term only because it's not always individuals. It could be 3 or 4 kids who are sharing that kind of thing, or formative assessment, which we usually use all the time. It's critical, and learning trajectories helps that so much. So, do you remember? I shot through this very quickly. That I showed you the picture of people doing shape puzzles, but then the video on the website has actually me teaching that little group, so you can watch it. But I don't think it's probably worth our time right now. Well, maybe. Um, Here's my thinking as I
These
worked
kids
with
are
a
working
group of
with
kids.
puzzles that promote their ability to compose geometric shapes, put shapes together to form a picture or ultimately other shapes. As you notice their work, see the different levels on which they operate and how I try to adapt the puzzle difficulty to the different levels that the kids are performing at. Oh, I see. I see. Yes. So you switched to a triangle. That was good. Wow. Wow. And I can immediately see, knowing the learning trajectory, how to adjust that. In other words, use formative assessment. Do you notice the boy at the bottom right immediately and confidently finished his puzzle at one level? So I replaced that puzzle with a puzzle at the highest level of shape composition for preschoolers. Whereas the girl, who was kind of getting frustrated with hers, I put her down 2 levels. Notice how she does on that. Very well with the caterpillar picture.
But by the way,
Yeah, I think
in real life, not when I'm trying to make a video that's not too long for people to watch on the web,
And therefore,
I would
I
offer
start
the
moving
kids
her up the
multiple
levels one
puzzles
at a time.
at the new levels so they still feel agency. I skipped that here. I'm just trying to go for the video purpose. So she was great at 2 levels down, so then I went one level up from that for her. So enough. It's embarrassing to play a video of yourself when you're sitting right there. But I thought seeing that, and then how about completely different topic? So for subitizing or for counting, what would you also do? Well, you can adjust. Just can you can you play this game where the goal is 4? Can you play this game where the goal is 7? Same game. If it's a dice game, like a racing game or a board game, card game, whatever, it's pretty easy to give these kids the regular die we all know, 1 through 6 dots. These kids have a die that has 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on the 6 faces. They're playing the same game. But these kids are moving 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll slip in a 1, 2, 3, 4 if they're doing fine with that, on the 6 faces of a die. For another kid, I got numerals on it. And for yet another kid, I got one with numeral and one with dots because that kid can see the numeral 4 and 3 dots and go 4, 5, 6, 7. Fantastic. You know, he's doing like kindergarten, first grade math and in preschool. Everybody's playing the same game. That is one part of the answer. The other part of the answer is we tend to do half the class small group, Monday and Wednesday, and the other half like Tuesday and Thursday. Not rigidly, just trying to get everybody to have two small groups every week. On Friday, that's where we pull these 3 out, or this 1 out, or this, and do them. I mean, they already did it twice, so we give them a third session um, uh, on purpose. There, 1 second. I didn't mute my phone. Sorry about that. So a third session, but also, are we running out of time? But also, we'll do other things. Do you remember subitizing? One level of subitizing is when you can produce small sets. So that we had a preschool, and a new child came at the end of November who apparently had very few or no math experiences previously, because all the kids were subitizing 5 and above, making sets of those and everything. This child could not make a set of 3. So the teacher wasn't sure what to do. He could make 1 and 2, but he couldn't do 3. So we had the teacher draw 3 circles on a piece of paper and make several pieces of paper with 3 circles, and the kid could just match because they did all right with that. It took almost 2 weeks, and the teacher was getting frustrated that she's doing that, but if it's no circles, she can't do it. And then we said, keep with it. Really, she just needs the repeated, meaningful experience. And then we went in the next Monday, and the teacher said, I got to tell you what happened. Yeah, it was snowing. This is in Buffalo. It was snowing. I was helping kids with this. The child came in. Ooh, I forgot to say. The teacher laid these things out and had the child do these because the child came pretty early before class started. So that was another way for her to give the child extra experiences. You find that little niche kind of time for a kid where they can do that. So the kid was used to it. So the kid came in this day, the teacher's struggling with boots, and the kid says, I need my circles, I need my circles. The teacher says, I'll be right there, I'll be right there. And so later she finally gets everybody's coats and hats in their lockers and stuff. She comes over to the kid, and the kid's got 8 pieces of paper with circles and 3 in each one. And she said, oh, good. She said, who made the circles? And the child said, I did. They could produce a set of 3 without the circles. They could produce the circles. She moved up to 4, and it took a while, and then 5. And the child was maybe not, the latest, developed, most advanced at the end of but she was right in the middle by the time the spring came. So patience with those kind of things, finding the niche time for individuals is needed, and extra small group sessions. Small groups are just tremendous for formative assessment. You really look into the kids' eyes, know what they understand and don't, and adjust the activities to serve their level of thinking. Any more?
Yes, I think we have time for this last question here.
Okay.
You mentioned using everyday materials for some of these activities. Do you make recommendations on the best ways to do this and still gain valuable learning? I'm thinking of low-income families or even childcare providers without the financial resources to purchase specific materials and manipulative.
Yes, yes. So if you go to the resource, I should stop sharing, right? Because that's probably interfering with what you guys are saying. If you go to the resources tab that we talked about and family resources, what we do, hey, geometry is a challenge there because that can be difficult. Although we have actually had teachers put pattern blocks in a Ziploc bag and send it home with some puzzles, and then the kids solve the puzzles, bring them back, and things like that. But we also have shapes you can cut out. So they're pretty, the teacher just prints them out, sends them home, 2 pages. One is the shapes. The other page says, this is what we're working on. And on the flip side, there's a fun activity for you to do. Cut out these shapes and have your children make all the pictures of toys, that they can with these shapes and stuff like that. So even with geometry, we try to provide that. But for arithmetic, counting, number, and patterning, anything they have at home is going to work. You do not need special math manipulatives to do really interesting things, and the family resources try to communicate that.
Actually, Doug, I think we have time for one more. Can I throw one more thing at
Oh,
you?
please do, please do.
Okay, so these are all of our exchange members, and we asked a question to the exchange members this past week. How much of a priority do you think your community places on early math development in young children? As you can probably imagine, responses indicated that it's not a high priority yet for many communities in our state. Can you make a couple of recommendations on how communities can make this more of a priority? They're going to take things back and put things into action in their own spaces, but what's the influence? How do we continue to advocate on a larger scale?
Yeah, we really need people, from policy people to superintendents and administrators, to know this kind of stuff. Did I send you guys any handouts on early math and things like that? And if I didn't, do you have a place to share them on the website so any participants could see those? I will send you some things that are short enough that they can be used as a explanation of many of the things I said, like the surprising importance of early mathematics. I'll make sure I send that one to you. I'm also going to send, if you don't mind, what I didn't have time to talk about, which is this new project that we're trying to make much more friendly. This is the one that'll do more family stuff. This is the one that is our, it uses everything I showed you from the learning and teaching with learning trajectories, but it helps you figure out what to do with that much better. So you can beta test, you can just write me. I'm Douglas.Clements at DU for Denver University .edu. I should have had that up there, sorry. Take a picture of the screen, you can get all these places, including if you go to Learning and Teaching with Learning Trajectories, which is learningtrajectories.org, or use the digital, there's a place to email me right from there, too. So we need to disseminate this kind of stuff, and then we need to really start getting into that coaches and leaders and everything really support the early math, that we talk about the strengths that this has and the approaches that are truly high quality. I was honored to be one of the writers of the new National Academy of Sciences report on preschool curriculum, and learning trajectories. That's what we need to follow. It's just an asset-based approach, and it's wonderful for all kids. I don't know if you have more suggestions, Kathy and others, about what kind of resources or things you would need to uh, convince
So
people and then work with. I mean, we have a lot of materials. The bajillions will have a lot of professional development things, resources for professional learning communities and others. It's still under development, but it's coming soon. And I was going to ask people if anybody wanted to, kind of be a beta tester and give us some early feedback on that. Tell me more, Kathy. I might have misinterpreted the question.
no, I think you were right on target. And Doug, I thanks for inviting me back in. I'm thinking just a couple of things. One, I think we have to be brave enough to allow people to come in and watch the work that our young mathematicians are doing. Um, and that does take an active courage to even ask maybe your school leader to come in, or an executive director, or outside members of the community. But when they're able to see the complex, beautiful work that math is beautiful. It helps convince people a little bit more about how important it actually is. I think.
It sure does, Kathy. Just a quick aside. We the things I was talking about building with pattern blocks and shape composing, and then also we do like toothpick shapes and stuff like that. We had a math supervisor that came in and saw the kids talking about rotation and the parallelism and stuff, and he said, "My middle school children don't students don't talk like that." So yes, seeing the potential there and how and arguing. We were talking before the webinar started. We need to get this into the hands, learning trajectories, these kind of understandings into the hands of kindergarten and first and second grade teachers so much too, because you if kindergarten curricula that you have doesn't presume that the kids know anything and starts counting to five, you lose a lot of the momentum that a good preschool math program can build. So we really need to keep keep advancing kids through these things in the primary grades, and then there's no stopping them in math.
That's right. Okay, well, Doug, thank you so much again for your time and expertise today. And I thank all of the mathematicians that are on this call today for your contributions, your questions, your commitment to supporting young children and supporting early learning across Indiana. We hope that we'll see you again soon at one of our future Ask the Expert sessions. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.
That was great, Doug. Thank you so much.